Live from WTOC, the Southeast News leader. The News Now starts on WTOC Plus.
Thanks for joining us here on WTOC Plus. I'm digital anchor Jude Bankley. We start with a programming note. The Georgia high school student that was allegedly tased by a school resource officer when accused of getting on the wrong bus is set to speak out any moment from now. Anir Johnson Hunt, the high school student seen on video being tased by an SRO, is holding a press conference outside of Langston Hughes High School to address the case. Here is a live look at that in Fulton County. We are standing by. This press conference is set to start momentarily, and as soon as we see the student and now we understand his legal representation speak as well, we will be taking this full and carrying an extended look at it right here on WTOC Plus. However, for the time being, we do have a couple of other stories to get to because this is just into our newsroom. Savannah police have made an arrest in connection with an armed carjacking at a restaurant yesterday. 41-year-old Donald Palmer Jr. was arrested after a woman says she was held at gunpoint and had her car stolen outside of Nancy's Seafood on West Main Street. Now, officers arrived on scene around 4:40 yesterday. Police searched the area and found the stolen car driving on Bullock Street and followed the vehicle until it hit a curb. After a foot chase, officers arrested Palmer. He's being charged with hijacking a motor vehicle, aggravated assault, and interference with government property. Well, the Savannah Ghost Pirates players, along with the rest of the ECHL, could be heading for a strike by the end of the week, according to the union representing the players. The Professional Hockey Players Association announced yesterday that its ECHL membership served a strike notice effective this Saturday, December 26th, this Friday, after players had voted last Friday. Now, the union cited health and safety issues as well as pay in an open letter to fans. It said in part, quote, "Many players have shared that they feel disrespected, undervalued, and taken for granted. As of today, after reviewing the league's most recent response, there have been no meaningful movement toward a fair resolution." Now, the league did respond, outlining their latest offer to players and saying in part, quote, "We believe the players would much prefer to continue playing and supporting the fans and communities we serve while we work through negotiations. WTOC will continue to follow this story as Friday's strike deadline quickly approaches." Well, 2025 was a busy year in Savannah. Violent crime is one topic that's been on everyone's mind lately, including Mayor Van Johnson's. There have been 27 reported homicides so far this year, which is 2 more homicides than this time last year. Looking back, WTOC has covered some major violent crimes, including the Oglethorpe Mall shooting in July and the recent acid attack near Forsyth Park earlier this month. Our very own Cam McCann sat down with Mayor Johnson to review the year as well as what's to come in the future as we close out 2025.
One of the things that you've tried to hammer home, especially these last couple weeks and months, is the violent crimes down on the whole in Savannah. Can you kind of talk about why you think that is and what concrete steps you guys have taken to bring down violent crime in Savannah?
Well, I mean, not why I think, why our statistics say that they are. And again, I think it's a variety of a couple of things, the things that we can control. So what can we control? We can control our police presence and our police interactions. We can control our access and use of technology. We can control our beats and how we respond to areas of known crime in a very intelligent way. We can address those issues. We can prevent young people from being involved in crime and violent crime by giving them alternatives. I'm still out here buying guns from people because I'd rather the gun be in my hands than to be in the hands of somebody who can use them.
Well, turning now to news out of the Low Country, a Beaufort County family says they are grateful for people wanting to build memorial crosses to honor their daughter, Maya Washington. She was just 18 years old when she was killed in a car crash earlier this year. It happened in McIntosh County in September. According to police, the car picked up speed, ignored a stop sign, and flew off the road in McIntosh County off of exit 58. The car overturned several times and ejected 2 people, while Washington was in the car and had to be taken out by first responders. 2 people have been charged in her case, And the memorial crosses will sit at the crash site and behind the family's home. But there are also other plans that others can get involved on in honoring Maya's life.
Maya would want people to practice grace, practice kindness, find some people in your life that you just need to forgive, and spread joy everywhere you go.
The family is also planning other community events in her honor, including a butterfly release and scholarship opportunities for students. You can hear more from Maya's mom on WTOC.com. Well, starting tomorrow, Christmas Eve, South Carolina law enforcement are stepping up patrols ahead of the holiday travel rush. Drivers across the Low Country can expect to see more officers and state troopers on the roads. Officials are reminding drivers that drinking and driving is never worth the risk. And some state leaders say they plan to push for tougher impaired driving laws when the next legislative session begins.
The laws need to be changed in order to protect people here out in South Carolina. We have the highest, death rate in the state, the country from that standpoint. And the dangers of the DUI, we need a new DUI law. Right now, it doesn't cover like drug cases, different other kind of cases involving marijuana, even vape pens.
State data shows 46 fatal crashes tied to impaired driving during the 2024-2025 travel period. Well, we're going to turn to Washington now, where lawmakers are trying to regulate big tech with a renewed focus on younger users. Senators are reintroducing the Kids Online Safety Act after it failed to pass both chambers last year. WTOC Washington correspondent Stephen Goyne has the details.
We know that kids are facing more and more dangers online, from bullying to sextortion. Lawmakers are now negotiating the details of a bill aimed at reducing those risks. In the infinite world of social media, these days, that endless stream of content reaching younger and younger users. But parents say what happens online is causing real-world harm. For years, families protesting and pushing Congress to step in.
These kids are being exposed to things that their naive young minds probably should not ever be exposed to.
Just weeks ago, this Ohio mom testifying about her son who took his own life.
James was the victim of financial sextortion, and though he died by suicide, let me be clear, he was murdered.
Now there's renewed momentum for change, with Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn reintroducing the Kids Online Safety Act. The bill passed overwhelmingly in the Senate last year, but stalled in the House. Blackburn says this time could be different.
We feel good about getting this across the finish line, and there's also more attention being paid to it because of AI.
The bill requires social media platforms to exercise, quote, reasonable care to prevent harm to minors. However, a House GOP version of the bill narrows what kind of harm companies are legally responsible for. Some lawmakers have also argued the legislation could lead to censorship.
100% of us support the principle behind it, but you got to get this one right.
I think the argument that tech has made that it infringes on their free speech is beginning to fall on deaf ears. These tech companies know that they are harming children.
The bill's supporters say without stronger oversight, kids remain vulnerable online. Blackburn with this message for parents.
I think it's important for parents to be talking to other parents and people that are working with young people and to educate themselves.
In Washington, I'm Stephen Gowen.
And staying in the nation's capital, Georgia Governor Brian Kemp traveled to Washington, D.C. this holiday season to visit members of the Georgia National Guard. The visit served as a show of support and appreciation for Guard members spending the holidays away from home. Also offered a morale boost to troops who are away from home during the holidays, following a deployment announced earlier this fall to support President Trump's security efforts in the nation's capital. A reminder, we are standing by to hear from the Georgia student allegedly tased by a school resource officer when getting on the wrong bus. I'm just going to once again pull this up. We are waiting for this press conference to start. It should be any moment now. It was slated to start at 11 a.m. this morning, and as soon as we see that feed go up, we will take it right here on WTOC Plus. But for the time being, we do want to turn to a different story, an investigation here actually on WTOC Plus. Because, if you or someone you know has been in a crisis, or if you're feeling extra stressed during the holidays, you may have dialed the number 988 for extra support. And both South Carolina and Georgia have dozens of folks answering those calls that sometimes involve life or death scenarios. But a big question is, how well are people actually equipped to deal with those calls, and are there enough people picking up the phone lines? Well, Anna Harris spoke to those on the other line to see if they're really in safe hands. Take a look.
And I called the crisis line. I'm like, hey, nothing's on fire. Everything's okay. I just need this resource.
For 988 operator Jennifer Piver, it all started 26 years ago.
And I remember the woman being so kind and saying, well, is there anything you want to talk about? And when I saw the ad, I was like, you know what? I can ask other people if they have something they want to talk about.
From using the service to today, she is now the executive director of Mental Health America of Greenville County.
So how does it keep you from going back to work every day when it can be so heavy?
I accredit our training. We put in well over 100 hours of training before people can independently work shifts by themselves.
The Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities says this training includes both national and center-based requirements, like training modules, in-class work, shadowing experienced callers, and countless role-playing what a call could really be like.
To be honest, you're never best prepared for taking a 988 call, simply because you don't know what type of call you're getting until you pick up the phone and answer it.
So how well are these call takers even performing? We requested call performance data and summary reports from the state BHDD Office of Mental Health between June 2023 and August of this year. As far as what's working, the number of folks knowing about 988 through promotionals, the start of chat and text features, and centers improving the way they document the calls. But it also includes notes of lack of staffing and repeatedly failing to meet the state-recommended goal of answering 90% of calls originating in South Carolina.
The state's only met that once.
Yeah, in June of 2025.
Is that concern you at all?
It does concern me, because I also think, we have more people reaching out that are needing help. How can we make sure that we have enough people available to answer?
Jessica Kobernick is the department's suicide prevention program manager who oversees 988. She says the reason they aren't meeting the mark is because the number of people working doesn't always match the demand. Kobernick says the Charleston-Dorchester Mental Health Center has 21 call takers, plus 2 support staff, and 9 vacancies. To compare, Piver says Mental Health America of Greenville has 30 people staffed, and they are about to have 8 openings. They say they have the hardest time getting people to want to work overnight. However, there are always people covering every shift no matter what, in hopes they touch every local.
Well, I do apologize, but we are going to interrupt that story to bring you the press conference we talked about off the top of the show, the Georgia student who was allegedly tased by an SRO for getting on the wrong bus. Here is him, as well as his family and now legal representation.
It was last Thursday, right? It was last Thursday? Okay. All right, good morning. Y'all ready? All right, good morning. My name is Harry Daniels. Along with myself, Attorney Gerald Griggs. We have the honor to represent Lanier Johnson Hunt. Also standing with us is his mother, Sharita Johnson Hunt. This morning we called this press conference, one, to allow Mr. Johnson Hunt to speak out, one, what transpired, what happened, and some of the misinformation that's been provided in this matter. Let me say this, first and foremost, that Mr. Johnson Hunt, Lanier, was on the right school bus. It was a dereliction of duty from the adults who had a duty to, one, ensure that a student is on the correct bus, which he was, and for his safety. I know been a lot of echoing, like, why didn't he just get off the bus? And we're going to explain this morning why it was imperative for Lanier to go home. And one of the reasons is imperative for him to go home because he had an autistic little brother who was going to get home before him or right after him, and he had to be at home to meet his brother at home. So it was imperative for him to get home, not just to get there, but to ensure the safety of his little brother. And a lot of that have not been spoken about, talked about in the media or on social media, but we want to put some context of what transpired. Now, one thing, Mr. Griggs will come and talk about this as well. We want to make sure that we very clear that we understand the position of listening to law enforcement, particularly when they give you an order or a command. Lanier understand that. We spoke to Lanier about that and the consequences that can result from that. But we equally want everybody to understand that you do not use excessive force against a child, especially in a situation such as this. The video speaks for itself. You see Mr. Lanier being, at one point, the officer having his hands around his neck, slamming him back into the seat, then using his taser in a drive stun mode, and that's when the taser actually is pressed to the body and the probes actually burning sensations to the body. Lanier has burn marks on his throat and his chest. Matter of fact, Lanier, come here for a second. Open your shirt up. You zoom in on this. This is the injuries that he sustained on his neck, going across his neck and his chest. Get back up a second, put it back up. Areas that's very sensitive, especially when electrical probes are located at. His heart is close by. We have incidents with people who have been tased or drive stun that can cause a person to go into cardiac arrest. So we're talking about excessive force in an issue that could have easily been cleared up by an administrator checking the system. And his mom's gonna come back and talk about what transpired what she was initially told and what had actually transpired and what actually happened, what she initially thought would happen, what she was told from the school administrators. But the most important thing we want to echo is that, and I say this and I echo this, I remember when I was in the military, and a drill sergeant would correct one person, and he would be or she would be very loud. They wasn't loud because they was upset at the person for doing something wrong. They wanted everybody to hear. And we are here because we want everybody here, not just Fulton County, the state of Georgia, but the entire United States. This type of actions, conduct, excessive force will not and should not be tolerated. This is a child attending this school who is simply trying to get home. Simply trying to get home. Using a chokehold, using a device to burn his body is excessive beyond excessive. Let's don't make no mistake about it. This is why we're here. Mr. Griggs, you want to come up and say something?
Gerald Griggs, Gerald Griggs, attorney. And we've been here too many times. Too many times we've seen the use of force by law enforcement on black bodies in this state. And it has to stop. I echo what Attorney Daniels has said. I echo what our client is going to say in a few minutes. He was merely trying to get home to take care of his little brother. He was on the right bus. You know, I've seen the media reports, I've seen the social media comments all over the place. Let's be clear. He was in the right place at the right time to do the right thing. Law enforcement overreacted, and we all know that they have a very difficult job to do, but sometimes you need to check before you encounter. The administration should have done more to check before having this encounter, because we know, and Harry knows this as well as I do, these type of situations turn deadly. And we are glad that we are here, not for a deadly encounter, because he's still here, but we are upset that we have to do this over and over and over and over again. So I want to be clear. This will not be tolerated in Fulton County, in the state of Georgia, in the United States. We've got to do better, and it starts right now. This young man was merely trying to go home. This young man was merely trying to take care of his family. This young man's injuries to his neck are atrocious. And so we want answers, we want accountability, but most importantly, we want this to stop. And so without further ado, I'm gonna turn it back over to Attorney Daniels, and I'm sure you will hear from my client and his mother shortly.
All right, thank you, Gerald. We're gonna have his mother, Ms. Johnson Hunt, to come up and speak.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I just wanted to speak on the situation of when I first received the phone call from administration, how they tried to play a completely different narrative. They called me and told me Lanier was on the bus trying to fight the police officer. He was actually on the wrong bus. They couldn't get him off the bus. They said that he gave the wrong name. Long story short, none of those things were true. He was on the correct bus. They never asked him his name. They asked another student what his name was. He was not combative. No, he didn't get off the bus after the second time because they lit them off and put them back on the bus. No, he did not get off, but I just don't feel it. Tasing him in his chest was the correct thing to do. Like, not at all.
You know, when I saw this video, I didn't, I'm going to say it's not akin to a circumstance that took place in 1955 when a black woman in Montgomery, Alabama refused to get off the bus. And I thought about it is that even in the height of the beginning of the Jim Crow law and the civil rights movement, started the civil rights movement, she was thrown in jail. She wasn't beaten, she wasn't tased, she wasn't choked. This is 1955. You're talking about 2025. Lanier is choked, burned with a taser for refusing to get off the bus he had a right to be on, the same right that Rosa Parks had a right to be on. Just trying to get home after a long day. That's trying to get to his little brother. That's what we teach our kids. To be right. Take care of your little siblings. And even in that, he was still subject to excessive force because nobody asked the question. It's like I said, it's a dereliction of adults. Nobody asked the question, simple question. They could have, the same way they told the mom that he was on the right bus, they could have looked in that office and school system and whatever to say, yeah, he's on the correct bus, let's go home. What does it hurt to even take to let the bus go, drop the other kids off, and he on the wrong bus, keep him on the bus? But they didn't want to do that. They want to call law enforcement to the scene, a gun that could have turned deadly. Next, I'm going to let you hear from Lanier. After that, we're going to have some Q&A, and if you ask some questions, me and Ms. Griggs may intercept those questions, answer those questions. Lanier. You want to tell them what happened?
I know it was just like a normal day of school. I was just trying to get home, get on the bus. And as soon as I get on the bus, my bus driver told me that I was supposed to be on the bus. And today she gonna make sure I'm gonna get off the bus, so don't even sit down. So once I sit down, she pulled up to the administrators. And the administrators get on the bus. And they automatically thought I was on the wrong bus. When she told them my name, they got on the bus and just told me to get off the bus. At first I refused, and then when I was refusing, they said if I don't get off the bus, all the students have to get off the bus. So once all the students got up off the bus, I got off the bus with the students. And then as soon as we all get off the bus, they didn't check nobody's names, they just told everybody to get back on the bus. As I get back on the bus, they told me to get off, and that's when they called the officers. When I sit down, the officers had came on the bus. They asked who was the student they was talking about. And the bus driver had pointed me out. They came back. They asked me to get off the bus. I had refused and told them this. Well, I was trying to tell them this is my bus. But the students was telling them that this is my correct bus. All the students on the bus was telling them this was my correct bus. Then, out of nowhere, one of the officers had said, if you don't get up and get off the bus or we're going to tase you. I said, I still refused to get off the bus. And that's when they tried to pull me and grab me. And when I got back up, when I had got back up, he had choked me, tried to choke me. Then he tased me. And when he tased me, I had got up. I was still, I don't know, my adrenaline was just rushing. And I just know that he tried to tase me again while I was getting off the bus. And I jumped off the bus. And when I was off the bus, they put me in some handcuffs. And the officer who tased me had started slapping me while my hands was in the handcuffs. He was slapping me, then he tried to tase me again while my hands was in the handcuffs. And that's when the administrators came back outside and tried to break it up. But he was already in the midst of slapping me. And when they broke it up, he was still running towards me. He was still trying to attack me while my hands was in handcuffs. He was trying to push against the administrators who was holding him back every time he seen me. When I was in a room with the other officers after this situation, when he seen me, he tried to attack me again. They had to pull him back and pull him away to cool down. But when I was in the back room, they called the EMS. The EMS had checked me out and told them that I needed to go to Grady. And they said, no, I'm not going to Grady, I'm going to Wright Street. But the EMS told them, even if I go to Wright Street, I'm gonna still have to go to Grady first. So they volunteered, the officers volunteered to take me to Grady, and I did not go to Grady that whole day. I went straight to a police station, and they held me in the police station until they had gave me a ticket and sent me back home to my mother.
All right, so like I said, we want to put this in context. As you can see, that it was just not an incident that took place on a school bus. That's what we call, an officer is rendering what we call gratuitous force. Force is not necessary. We don't believe the force on the school bus was necessary or warranted, especially when our client was in handcuffs. And this was a out of control officer, out of control, completely unhinged, out of control. You can see the video of him using profanity towards Lanier, and the fact that he's trying to, according to Lanier, he's still trying to go after him. You know, Lanier may weigh 130 pounds soaking wet. You had these two officers, grown men out there, that could have easily handled and controlled this situation. And Lanier was afraid to go to the hospital with him. He wanted to go to the hospital. He just didn't want an officer to take him to the hospital, especially an officer who was continuing to try to assault him, but he was in handcuffs. So, like you said, it's more to this story for all the ones who talk about he should get off the bus. Well, when he got off the bus, they put him in handcuffs, he was still being assaulted. See, it's more to what you see on the video, you know, and it's the reason why we believe why Fulton County and the Fulton County police department suspended this individual. What's his name?
Jimmy Durnin.
Durnin. So, you know, we just want to make sure that his story get told. Next steps, we'll see what next steps are. I know a lot of questions, what's next? Well, first and foremost, we all want accountability for those who are responsible. And what I'm hearing, it just wasn't the officers, but also some, and I said before, some missteps by possible bus driver and administrators. And those things should be they should be held accountable for their actions and investigated so this type of incident don't happen again. With that being said, we're going to open it up for some questions.
So to be clear, Lanier, was he charged?
Yes, sir.
So,
Okay, what was he charged?
I had resisting arrest.
Can you step up to the microphone?
yeah, so what was you charged with?
Resisting arrest, disorderly conduct, and obstruction.
Resisting disorderly conduct and obstruction. And also he's currently under suspension. I know we're on the Christmas break, holiday break, and he's currently on suspension from the school, to my understanding. Is that right, Mom?
Yes, sir, for 10 days.
So that's something that we actually have to deal with as well, particularly this incident and how this incident arose as to whether the suspension should have been warranted in this situation, especially when you're aware now that he was on the correct bus. Go ahead. You gonna get two of them, Mama? You gonna get two of them? Yeah, so that question we don't know because that's the same bus he rode every day. Was the same bus driver?
Yes, but like she's new. But she came a couple months ago. We had like a month or two ago, and she liked to pick on the boys. We feel like we realize she be picking on the boys. Like we have other situations of people who's supposed to ride the bus, and she had them get off the bus. Like,
so you had ridden on that bus with that driver repeatedly prior to that?
Yes, sir.
And let me stop for a second. And that's why, to go back to his question, that's why it's such an anomaly. He was just on the bus. He rode the bus. So I'm the question as to whether the bus driver have a memory issue. You know, if she is a female bus driver.
Yes, sir.
If that's the case, she should not be driving children. If you can't remember from the day before a child get on your bus from the next day, you know, so that's a great question you asked. So we don't understand why did she assume that he didn't supposed to be on that bus when he just rode the bus.
This is probably a better question for the district, but it seems to verify that would be, I would imagine they have a roster of names and who goes on bus A, B, C, D, E. I mean, what happened between the time the bus driver said he shouldn't be on it to the mess they're doing now?
Well, I think that is a great question for the district, but my response is nothing. They didn't do their job. They could have easily checked. And the bus, to my understanding, the school bus is like an extension of the classroom. You know, who's supposed to be on this bus, you know, because you got to ensure child safety, the safety of the children to get back and forth to school. So, you know, that could have easily been verified. It was verified at Mom that he was on the right bus. It could have been verified the day of if we'd have not been here today. Next question. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Here you go. I'm trying to be fair to the women and everybody out here. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry, sir.
How old is the younger sibling with you?
How old is Kingsley?
To what extent is this sort of routine for you to go home?
He's 6 years old. So even if he didn't have autism, he's not old enough to be at home by himself. So his big brother would go and make sure he was okay at home. Hey, go ahead.
I'm currently 18 and 12.
He's a senior. He's 18. Go ahead.
So no plans in place right now for any specific legal action against the school district or the bus driver or the officer?
Well, I knew you was going to ask that question. So let me just say this. First and foremost, our first step is to get Lanier back in school. All right, this suspension, we'll be working with the school and with his mother to see can we correct that issue, and move from there. You know, it's always an issue as to whether legal action be taken in these cases. I mean, at the end of the day, you see his neck, you see his body. You know, there's injuries. You know, so when you look at those things and as somebody's responsible for those, and sometimes the only way you can hold those accountable is by bringing legal actions. So let us be clear that we're going to seek every avenue from administrative as well as all the way up to the United States District Courts and the federal courts to get redress for Mr. Lanier for what transpired. Because it's not about in Fulton County School, and I hope they're right. You know, I've had rumblings there. They may be wrong that this officer had prior incidents and bad acts and conduct, but it's an isolated incident, that, according to them. But other people telling this is not isolated with this officer, that he tased another child on another day. You know, we haven't verified those things, but that's what we're being told. So we want to ensure that, one, accountability is not just for Lanier, but everybody else child that go to Fulton County, to Langston Hughes High School or any other school within the state of Georgia. And those are the main things that we are pursuing here. It's not just about, and I have a good friend that always say this, these cases are not about finance. These cases are about family. You know, your family, my family. And Mr. Griggs said it, we're thankful that Lanier is here. I know some of y'all I've done stories with, and I see some of the familiar faces. We had cases where the mom or the family members on the standing here because the person is no longer here. You know, when you bring a gun to a incident, you never know what's going to happen. And we're just thankful that Lanier is here to tell his story. Any other questions?
Well, that was an extended look at a press conference out of Fulton County, Georgia, hearing from Langston High School senior named Lanier Johnson Hunt, as well as Harry Daniels, the man you saw speaking for a good portion of that press conference. He's a national civil rights attorney, talking about an incident that happened last week on December 18th at the high school. Lanier saying that he got on the correct school bus. The bus driver didn't believe he was on the right school bus. Lanier said, as you heard him recount his story, saying he got on the right school bus. The new school bus driver said he didn't belong there, and that ultimately led to that video that we had showed earlier of Johnson being tased by a school resource officer. And you could see in that press conference some of the marks still on his neck when he, showed where he had been tased, some of the burn marks there that he showed. The attorneys and Johnson's family talking about potentially seeking legal action now, and we should also note that the officer in that video was removed from active duty following the incident. That's all according to the Fulton County Schools. And with that, we are going to conclude our coverage here, and we are going to conclude our show here on WTOC Plus, and we'll now join Local News Live in progress.